Hello everyone, today I'll be reviewing Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. So Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf came out in 1966 and stars Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, and it was directed by Mike Nichols. This film is based on a play of the same name written by Edward Albee in 1962. So the majority of this film involves just four characters. We get a couple, George and Martha, played by Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, and we get another couple, Nick and Honey, who are played by George Segal and Sandy Dennis. So Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor as George and Martha, they are a married couple, and George is a history professor at the university. They invite a younger couple round, Nick and Honey, played by George Segal and Sandy Dennis. And Nick, he works in the biology department at the university as well. They meet each other, they have this gathering together, and basically everything kicks off from there. So most of this film is really all about the interaction between these characters. It's a very dramatic film, and the acting is really good in this film. In fact, all four actors were nominated for Oscars. Elizabeth Taylor won the Oscar for Best Actress. Sandy Dennis won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. The two men didn't win an Oscar, but they were both nominated. And this film was actually nominated for every possible category at the Oscars at the time, which was very unusual. So Elizabeth Taylor, I think, is probably the real star of this film. Now, Elizabeth Taylor at the time was known for more glamorous roles than this, so it was very unusual when it was known that Elizabeth Taylor was going to be playing Martha in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And in fact, Elizabeth Taylor actually put on 30 pounds in weight for this role, and as such, she doesn't look like her usual glamorous self in this film. She does a very good job with it. She seems to become the character very well, and she certainly is really properly acting in this film. And in fact, all four of the actors are all very good. So this film involves lots of arguments between the four characters, and often involves the characters annoying each other or bringing out certain aspects of each other across the film. And as such, it's a very interesting film to watch from a dramatic perspective. Obviously, you can definitely tell that this film was based on a play, and it really reminds me of A Streetcar Named Desire, which was another film with Vivian Leigh, Marlon Brando that was based on a play. So you can definitely see similarities between the two, because both of the two films, the acting is phenomenal in both films. There's really lots of arguments and lots of tension and lots of emotional voices, and the acting is really up there in terms of some of the best in all the films, really. So in terms of the downsides of this film, I suppose really there isn't necessarily much of a plot in the traditional sense, and some people might find this film a little bit boring. Particularly, there's a few points maybe it doesn't seem to be particularly going anywhere, but you have to watch it at the end to really get a proper perspective of it and really appreciate it. And I did enjoy this film. There were a few bits where maybe I didn't find it quite as interesting, and it can get a little bit of getting used to, because there is a lot of shouting in this film. And in fact, for its time, this film does have quite a lot of profanity, quite a lot of swearing in it, and it was a bit of a controversial film for its time. It's now seen as a film which is perhaps quite ahead of its time, because there was quite a lot of bad language in it. Now, when I say bad language, probably by today's standards, the language is actually pretty tame, and it probably won't bother most people, because the swearing that they have in films nowadays in 2020 is obviously much worse. But back then, it was quite unusual for them to say some of the words which they do. But it's not necessarily that. It's more to do with the shouting itself, because Elizabeth Taylor in particular, she is very loud in this film, and she does shout quite a lot, and a lot of the time they'll be talking at a certain volume, then they'll suddenly raise it, and the angle seems to come from nowhere. One of the characters will suddenly explode. And there was also quite a lot of drinking in this film as well. The characters often have a drink in their hands. Obviously alcohol is involved, so they often seem to get a little bit drunk. And in fact, Martha, Elizabeth Taylor's character, and George, played by Richard Burton, they both seem to be alcoholics, relying on the alcohol to help them through these conversations that they're having with each other and also with Nick and Honey in this film. So from a dramatic standpoint, it's certainly a very good film. I can certainly see why it's regarded as a classic, because Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, they were both married at the time of this film, and as such it's a very interesting film to see this couple actually act together on screen, though they had previously acted together in Cleopatra, which had come out a few years before this, which did absolutely terrible at the box office. But this is obviously a very different film, since Elizabeth Taylor in particular plays a very different kind of character, and it's a very gritty film. It's not your typical Hollywood film where everything's nice and glamorous and it's all very happy. This is a very dark, quite a depressing film, I suppose, to be honest, in some ways, though it's not afraid to be depressing. It's not afraid to be too realistic and too gritty and show the downsides of marriage. And in some ways this film does show the downsides of marriage, because we have two couples in this film who at the start seem happy enough, and then we as the audience, we find out different things about them, and we find that maybe they aren't married for the reasons we think they are, and both couples seem to have certain secrets that they don't want to tell each other, particularly with the younger couple that comes in. And there's lots of interesting conversations in this film which reveal certain things about the characters. Now, I know I'm being quite vague about this, but really I don't want to give too much away, because otherwise I'll just be telling you exactly what happens and I'll be spoiling it for you. So I would say that Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is an interesting film, definitely worth checking out. I can't necessarily recommend it for everyone, because it's a drama. It's not the most action-packed film, but it is very much a film which is in your face because of the shouting and the arguments, and it comes across as a very fast-paced film because the characters in this film do tend to talk quite quickly, and really the dialogue, what the characters are saying, is all very important to what these characters are about, and it just makes an interesting film from a standpoint from just watching how these characters interact on screen. So I'm going to give Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf a rating of 8 out of 10. It was a film I did enjoy quite a bit, but at the same time it's not necessarily the type of film that I'd want to watch again and again. Certainly a film I can appreciate from a dramatic standpoint, and in terms of the acting ability, well, this is probably one of the best, and particularly a very interesting film from this era. So there we go. So that is Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. So what do you guys think? Have you seen Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Please let me know down in the comment section what you think. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.